India at the moment has 30 unicorns. Very quickly, in 3 points each, how do we take it up to 100? Anjali, let's begin with you.
So we were pondering a little bit. You know, unicorn is this mythical creature that no one's actually ever seen. And anyone who has read Harry Potter will know that they are magical, mystical, holy, sacred, and very, very rare. So I think that the fundamental premise of a unicorn is that it is rare, it is special. I think the question in my mind really is not to take 30 to 100, but build tremendously impactful companies in India that are innovative, disruptive startups that actually deliver scale and impact to the country.
So are we thinking in that direction? Do you get a sense that our entrepreneurs are thinking in that direction?
I think a lot of companies are getting there, whether they start thinking of it that way, but eventually for a country like ours at the stage of economic development we are in, having any kind of scaled enterprise does lead to job creation, leads to market linkages, creates formalization. So I think impactful enterprises are getting created, and I'm happy to sort of give a couple of examples once my fellow panelists have spoken,
sure.
Where very, very successful unicorns, Sunicorn, you take a delivery, take an urban clap, they are not only commercially successful, but also highly impactful.
Okay.
Thanks for having me. I think there are two ways to build it in some sense. One is, I think, the work that's gone in the last 10, 15 years just created an incredible sort of inherent confidence in India to not necessarily come from traditional, business routes and those kind of financing methodologies, as opposed to piggyback on what the venture capital ecosystem is able to provide in terms of capital to entrepreneurs who were historically not seen as sort of fundable by the ecosystem, right? And banks and public markets are way beyond the reach of most of these entrepreneurs. So I think the ecosystem's ability to have more and more confidence in Indian entrepreneurs and have capital available at every point where it's needed, from $1 million angel round or a seed round all the way to a $100 million round. This is relatively new. So it's only in the last 4 or 5 years that you've seen that kind of influx. And so without capital, I don't think you can build the speed at which you need to see these unicorns. It's not like India hasn't built them profitably before. It's just that they take 20, 25 years. Now, what you're trying to do in the venture ecosystem is accelerate them to half that time. And so I think the capital ecosystem is getting more robust, and that's been a phenomenal advantage that current entrepreneurs benefit from. The second, I think, is a lot of people on the panel, I think, are beneficiaries of Indian companies going global. So we saw that in IT services for about 2 decades. And then looks like nobody believed that it was possible with Indian tech in the shape of products, IP, analytics companies potentially becoming world beaters and building hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue and being valued at $1 billion or more. And now we are seeing poster children for that. We're seeing Freshworks, which recently got valued at $3.5 billion. I wouldn't be surprised if we have a lot of NASDAQ IPOs even before our IPOs. So I think we'll have, if we have to reach 100, I would predict that a good 30 will come from us tackling global markets, not just the Indian market. So then you're able to tap into global GDP and their ability to buy businesses, buy as customers and buy businesses eventually, as opposed to simply the Indian markets as customers or public markets. So that's my take.
Okay.
Yes. So, my view is that I think the last decade was about first India, right? So when the internet came to India, the early adopters of the internet were the elite. The richest people in India. They could afford devices. You had connectivity to the metro areas, and that was a population of about 15 to 20 million people. And out of that, we've got these 30 unicorns. But now, I would say the market is all about next India, which is about the next 150 million people, which in a decade will probably be about 300 million people, because of Jan Dhan, Aadhaar, deep penetration of 4G across the country, smartphones becoming more affordable. So as you start building for this larger market, you will see, because it's a larger playing field, you'll see those 70 unicorns, those additional 70 emerge just because of the size of that market. So I think we are already there in terms of the landscape and the infrastructure having been set. I think to Karthik's point, now that the capital ecosystem is being built, I think we'll get there because the money supply will emerge. So I think it's a matter of time. The confluence of forces certainly seems to be in place.
Okay, Tej?
Thank you. Thank you, first of all, for having all of us here. It's great to see, again, coming back to India today. I've been associated with them before. So I totally believe that we can build 70 more unicorns, and like all the panelists said, we have a lot of infra in place. If you see, you know, I've been investing for 10 years in India, and Karthik and you know, Anjali and Rehan has been doing even for longer, but the time taking to become a unicorn is shortening. You know, earlier, you know, for example, we invested in Flipkart. It took them more than 10 years to, not to become a unicorn, but, you know, at least 5 years to get there. Now, if you look at Swiggy, they did that in 3 years. So also the internet penetration has improved. The infrastructure of capital has improved. Also, the government policies have worked out to be in favor of supporting startups. We need to see a lot more. One thing we, you know, because our fund is from China, so what we have learned from China is that they support their startups even a lot more in terms of government subsidies, etc. And also having a, you know, Karthik mentioned about companies cannot list in India because they're not profitable. So I think we could actually have a new exchange where a lot of these unprofitable companies can actually list and raise money. And Anjali does a lot of work with government, so she can probably put some light on it. So I do see there is a lot of things, a lot of new entrepreneurs are coming up. Earlier, you know, taking entrepreneurship was considered as a very hard job. Now every IIT guy wants to, you know, get into entrepreneurship. It's good that we have poster boys who have actually set examples for them. So
That's
I'm
true.
very, very, very excited actually.